What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some of the research rewards for GoFest on the second day. We're talking about Shadow Legendary Birds, so excited about that. And then I'm also going to be posting a completely separate video for Shadow Mewtwo later on, so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. But today is going to be a deep dive all about these legendary birds. Before we get started with the actual video, I want to give a huge shout out to Zionic and say, you did so good. Got himself a 100% IV Shadow Zapdos. So excited about that with him being a Team Instinct player. So wanted to give a huge shout out to that. I actually watched it on stream, which was really cool in that situation. But anyways, in today's episode, what we're going to be doing is talking about all of these Pokemon. We're going to be going through the raids, their movesets, and then talking about them from a PvP perspective so you can figure out which one's going to be the best one to actually invest into. If you do enjoy this episode, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's go ahead and start this one off with Articuno. So for Articuno, its defense stat is easily its best. Stamina stat's also pretty good. It is low in the attack, so it does differ from Zapdos as well as Moltres in that it is not attack oriented in that way. But if you have played PvP, you'll know that Articuno is honestly still a very solid option. But we're going to be taking a look at it from the raid side as well, so you can of course make your decision, while also keeping in the back of your mind that Shadow Pokemon have a 20% increase in expenses added to them to power it up, to unlock secondary charge move, anything like that related to the candy as well as the Stardust. So we got to see something real impressive in my opinion to of course go ahead and give it the go to power it up. So as far as the moveset is concerned, Ice Shard as well as Icy Wind tends to be probably the more recognizable moveset for this Pokemon, of course from the PvP side, but then from the raid side it is unfortunately a different moveset. So that's something to kind of keep in the back of your mind because that's going to dictate what exactly you want to do with the moveset. So let's go and take a look at the performance from the raid side. We've got Shadow Articuno in at the 5th position, and that's going to be a no for me. And it kind of has to do with some Pokemon around it. Like for example, Mamoswine was so common and it even got a community day. So I'd imagine a lot of people who are playing Pokemon Go have themselves a Mamoswine army. And we're talking about a non-legendary option, non-shadow option. It's going to be more accessible than most other Pokemon, being better than this Shadow Legendary. So in my opinion, I think Shadow Articuno is going to be a big skip for me from the raid side, of course. And then, of course, we got Shadow Mewtwo up there. I'm so excited about that deep dive. That's going to be an insane one because Mewtwo has just such a vast moveset. It's going to be absolutely crazy. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the next Pokemon. We've got Shadow Zapdos, and it has an amazing attack stat, and it also has a fairly good stamina stat as well. And honestly, its defense stat really isn't that bad. So it ends up getting an overall ranking of 63rd in Pokemon Go. It actually has the highest ranking out of all three of the birds from a statistical perspective. So now that we've seen a little bit about Zapdos' stats, let's go ahead and take a look at the moveset. Now, as far as the moveset is concerned, Thunderbolt is definitely a common move. I'd be interested to see if more people end up using Drill Peck because we did see an update to it. And then finally, we have an elite fast move. So it says charge move, but it's actually a fast move in Thundershock. So for a player like Zionic who got a 100% IV Shadow Zapdos, should he go ahead and TM over to Thundershock? Let us know in the comment section below. I actually have a strong feeling I know what the answer is for that. So of course, people opting to go with Thundershock over Charge Beam in that particular case, and you will see why. So let's go and take a look at some raid results. So we end up seeing Shadow Zapdos in at that 4th position, but there is something kind of interesting about this. So you can see that Raikou beats it, but it only ends up beating it by 2 seconds, and they have roughly the same number of feints. But here's the trick though. When Shadow Zapdos ended up getting released from GoFest, what ended up happening was the floor IVs were at a 10-10-10, and then for every other Pokemon released under Giovanni, it could be literally anything. So I would bet that most people that have a Raikou have a set of IVs that are lower than a 10-10-10 at the minimum. So who knows, maybe Zapdos deserves to be in the 3 slot, realistically speaking. But even then, you still have some other Shadow Pokemon that are beating it from that regard. So it will cost you an Elite Fast Team to get these results as well. So that is something also to consider. If you've got Charge Beam, it's definitely going down a little bit further. But it's unfortunately not in that #1 position. So that's something to consider. Now let's go ahead and get into the third and final Pokemon, one that I'm most excited about, especially from the results perspective. An amazing attack stat, a little bit lower than Zapdos, a fairly good stamina, and a little bit worse off on the defense, and it ends up getting an overall ranking of 71st in Pokemon Go, so still looking good overall from that regard. Now, as far as the moveset is concerned, you could go about this two ways. If you don't want to use an elite charge TM or anything like that, I would recommend going at it from the fire perspective, because it is the #1 Pokemon from the fire typing, which is just insane as a shadow form. Moltres is already pretty much #1 for the most part, but with the shadow edition, it definitely ended up excelling past itself. So excited about that. Or if you were in it for the long term, you could go with Wing Attack and then eventually use an elite charge TM to get yourself Sky Attack. If you do that, it will of course cost an elite charge TM to get there, but I also wanted to go ahead and showcase those results as well. I thought this would be kind of fun, just because you could end up seeing a Shadow Zapdos down here where it ends up using Thundershock as well as Drill Peck in this particular case, kind of like what I was talking about earlier about Drill Peck potentially getting more use out of it. But anyways, as you can see in the #1 position, we've got Wing Attack and Sky Attack in this particular case, mostly because of the fact that Virizion is double weak to the flying type and only singularly weak to the fire typing. So that's why you're seeing those flying type moves there. But regardless of that, Shadow Moltres is looking amazing from the raid side, is what I'm trying to show you. So now that we have covered that, we can go ahead and get into the PvP results. So this is going to be for the Ultra League, and that's where I ended up seeing the highest ranking for these Shadow Pokemon. So Shadow Zapdos technically did fairly good in the Great League. It was ranked like, I think 30 something, but in this particular case ends up doing better from the Ultra League. So that's going to be amazing. Of course, with Thunderbolt, Drill Peck, and then Thundershock. So like I said before, Drill Peck really showing up here. And then for Articuno, honestly, I think you could do without Hurricane and just go with Ice Shard and Icy Wind. It's going to be a low investment. You're going to have to power it up a little bit because it'll be roughly 1500 CP once you end up catching it. So it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to, of course, get it up to 2500 CP or around that. But Shadow Zapdos ends up taking on that #1 spot. Unfortunately for Moltres, it just doesn't have like the right combination to be good. I checked all of the leagues and it's just not good from that regard, but luckily it is good from the raid side. So overall, when we talk about these Pokemon, I'm going to go ahead and, like, if we made like a quadrant or something like that, and we're talking about raid results, and then of course PvP results, from the raid results, we're going to give Articuno a no. I feel like it's kind of like an iffy thing on Zapdos, and then we're given a plus on Moltres, and then when we get into the PvP side, Articuno gets a check, Zapdos gets a check, and then Moltres gets an X, at least in my opinion. But I would love to know what you think about all these Pokemon in the comment section below. Are you super excited about it? Can you just not wait to be able to use them? Are you going to use them from the raid side, PvP side, anything and everything? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. Huge shout out to the supporters over at Patreon. If you would like to get exclusive perks, make sure to check out that link in the description, and I will see you next time.